Good afternoon. We're continuing to talk about the makeup Shemoneh Esrei, which is called Tfilas Tashlumin. What happens if you forget to daven a Shemoneh Esrei, that you can make it up during the next service. So if you forget Shacharis, you can daven Mincha twice. If you forget Mincha, daven Marav twice. And if you forget Marav, you daven Shacharis twice. And we're going to talk now about a few more details about this. And we're in the Mishnah Berurah Kuf Ches Gimel 1083. Handim mashlim hatfila shehifsid, that which we make up, the Shemoneh Esrei which we forgot. Davka bisman tefila is only during the time of davening. Aval bisha she'ein zman tefila lo, but not at the time of davening, you can't make it up. So we're going to discuss what exactly that means. Bisman tefila yesh me'achronim shekasvu shirot salomer. There are some sages who say this means delo tiknu chazal tfilas hashlama rak be'odena oisik betfilaso hayikaris achar sheshak dehiluch dal ramos o ashrei ben time. Some say this means that you have to daven the makeup Shemoneh Esrei right away after your first Shemoneh Esrei, and within the time it takes to walk Dal Ramos. The time it takes to walk Dal Ramos is about 2 seconds, 3 seconds, or if you say Ashrei in between. So according to this opinion, let's say as soon as you finish Shacharis, and you say Ashrei in between after Tachnun, you have to daven your makeup Shemoneh Esrei for the Marav that you forgot right away. So what you can't do, according to this opinion, is daven Shacharis, and then, let's say you daven Shacharis at 7 o'clock, and then you wait till 9:30, or whatever it is, and you daven your makeup Shemoneh Esrei for Marav. That you can't do. Your regular Shemoneh Esrei and your makeup Shemoneh Esrei, they have to be right next to each other. Aval harbe achronim hiskimu. Many rabbis agree. Da'afta lechatchila b'vadei tzarich lizar b'zeh lispal tfilas hashlama tekev achar tfilas hachiyuvis avu b'diavad eino ma'akev rakim over zman tefila. Other rabbis, while they say this for sure is the preferred practice, if you don't do it, if you don't daven the makeup Shemoneh Esrei right next to the obligatory Shemoneh Esrei, you can still do it b'diavad, but you still have to daven you still have to say it at a time of davening. So what does that mean? Dahainu, im lo hispalel arvis, yispalel shacharis shtayim, rak ad arba shos alayom, shehuzman tefila shacharis. Daha noitel over zeh schar tefila bezmanam, she'en kein achar dalet shos denotel rak schar tefila rachme, kein kasu aprimigadim magim bor medar chaim, el shebedar chaim hosiv davar chadash shelo niskaru shari achronim. We'll say that in a second. So, according to this opinion, you are allowed to daven the makeup Shemoneh Esrei as long as it's still a time of davening. So let's say you forget to daven Marav. You forgot. So what's the halacha? The halacha is you daven Shacharis twice. So your first Shemoneh Esrei counts for Shacharis, and your second Shemoneh Esrei will count as a makeup for Marav. Now, until when can you daven the makeup till Marav? So for sure, the preferred way to do it is right after you daven the regular Shemoneh Esrei for Shacharis, and after you say Tachnun, then you say Ashrei, and then right away you daven your makeup Shemoneh Esrei. But let's say for some reason you didn't. So according to these opinions, you have until the end of the fourth halachic hour of the day, because the end of the fourth halachic hour of the day is the regular time that you can daven Shacharis and get all of the mitzvahs for davening. And that's about now, it's around 10:30. It changes 10:30 a.m. about. It changes throughout the year. It's not the exact time, but it's about, actually it's like 10:29 right about now. So as long as you daven your makeup Shemoneh Esrei for Marav before 10:29, you are good. Now he's saying that the Derech HaChaim says a chiddush. Vehu di'im gam tfilas shacharis gufa lo hispal ad achar dalet shos. Ditzarach lispal az shtayim kevin shosik betfila. Vim shachal lispal mincha. So he says a chiddush there that the whole thing that we need to do when we do the makeup Shemoneh Esrei is that it has to be at a time of davening. So the halacha is that if you forget to daven Shacharis and you wake up, let's say really late, past 10:30, you're still allowed to daven until noon. Halachic noon, which could be about, right now it's about probably 12 o'clock. So he says that if you wake up late, and let's say, so you're like really in bad shape, you forgot Marav, and then you woke up past the time that you can daven Shacharis, so you woke up at like 11 o'clock. So he says, since you're already davening Shacharis in the non-optimal time, then you can daven a makeup Marav in also that non-optimal time. Okay. V'im shachal hispal mincha, if you did not daven mincha, yesh omrim demispal marv shtayim rak ad chatzos halayla. So now, let's say you didn't daven mincha. So the rule is you daven 2 marvs. Now, what's the latest time that you can daven the second marv? So he says until halachic midnight. Because that is the preferred time to daven Marav, even though technically you can daven Marav after midnight, after halachic midnight, and since it's not the preferred time, you should still only daven the makeup Shemoneh Esrei for mincha until midnight. But the Pri Megadim says no, you don't only go by the preferred time for davening Marav, since you could technically daven until dawn, you can daven Marav until dawn, so you can also daven the makeup Shemoneh Esrei for mincha until dawn. The im shachach v'lo ispal shachris, if you didn't daven shachris, yesh la shlama rak me'esha maschel zman mincha v'hu achatzi shah she'achar chatzais v'gam sheispal mincha mikodem v'nimshach zman hashlama b'diavad ad ben hashmashos v'afilo ha'ayom sheyesh bo musaf v'ispal musaf be'emtza. So he says that let's say you forgot Shachris. So when can you daven the makeup Shachris? So you can daven at the time of Mincha. The time of Mincha is from a half hour after midday. So that's around 12:30 now. So first you daven Mincha, and then you daven the makeup Shachris. And you can do that until Ben Hashmashos, which is until about Shkia, when the sun sets. Okay. And he says that's even if you have a day that you daven Musaf. Kol zeh atakti ben achronim ledina. That's the halacha. And he's saying all that he was saying now is according to the letter of the law. But preferably, Yoser Nachum b'chol zeh she'im lo ispalal tekef tfilas hashlama achar hatfila achiyuvis ispalal so b'toras nadava dahainu sheyasnu v'yomer imani chayev harei zeh lechovasi v'im lav harei hi l'nadava v'chein hiskim ha'pri megalim. But since he mentioned earlier that there's an opinion that says you can only daven the makeup Shemoneh Esrei right after the obligatory Shemoneh Esrei, if for some reason you didn't do that and you're davening later, what you should do is you should do the famous T'nai, the famous condition that we've been saying many times. You should say, if I am required to daven this as a makeup Shemoneh Esrei, let it count for that. And if I'm not required to daven it, then let this be an optional Shemoneh Esrei. Let it be a Tfilas Nadava. In this way, you fulfill all the requirements. So just to recap, someone forgets to daven Shemoneh Esrei. Let's say he forgot to daven Marav. The next day at Shacharis, he davens 2 Shemoneh Esreis. And the preferred thing that he should do is right after he davens a Shemoneh Esrei and says Tachnun, he should say Ashrei, and then he should daven the second Shemoneh Esrei, which is a makeup for Marav, right away. Now let's say for some reason he did not do that. So he can still do the makeup Shemoneh Esrei until 4 halachic hours of the day, which is about 10:30. And what he should do at that point is to make the condition and say, if I am required to daven now, let this be my makeup for Marav. And if I'm not required to daven now, let this be a voluntary Shemoneh Esrei. Hope everyone has a good day.